following podcast contains spoilers. Do not listen to this podcast if you haven't seen the movie.
And where is the Gotham Bat? The masked vigilante has been a no-show.
He said the age of heroes would never come again.
It has to.
This is the Bunzerelly Show.
Official opening day was November 17th, and it is Thursday, November 16th, and me and Paul have just left the theater and come into the studio, so we don't have a worldwide consensus. We don't really have an idea what's going on Rotten Tomatoes. I know I've seen a percentage and everything, so these are unadulterated thoughts. I'm actually, I'm glad we have this opportunity. So, first of all, I went in there looking for Wonder Woman because that was, as far as this DC universe had started, I was a big fan of that first Superman. And then, Batman versus Superman was just like, whatever. And Wonder Woman was fantastic. So I was thinking between that Superman and that Wonder Woman, if we could get it right, we could recapture the magic. But, Wonder Woman, really that opening Wonder Woman fight scene really kind of lost me. I don't know. It wasn't consistent with the powers we've seen, her characters, and I was a little worried at first. I was turned off by that first scene, but the first initial thing that grabbed me of this movie was Cyborg. That was the big surprise of this movie. At some point, the movie just took a turn, and all of a sudden, everything kind of fell together. I feel like when J.K. Simmons came in,
fixed all of our problems.
Yeah, I feel like
usual.
Yeah, I feel like the movie just got. Yeah, J. Jonah Jameson, J.K. Simmons will fix any superhero franchise.
A real hero.
I feel like the movie all of a sudden started coming together and finding itself, and between him and Cyborg, and like I'm saying, I like this movie. It was good, but I'm just my initial feelings in the theater was like, in the beginning, I was losing it. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a stinker, and all of a sudden, I don't know if you felt the same way, but all of a sudden, like in the first quarter of the movie, I just kind of woke up and I was in there. It took a second. Even like the first, like the Lois Lane and his mother, Superman, of course, Superman's return, which we're going to delve into, but maybe it was Batman's motivations. I don't know. It just wasn't. Okay, let me go back a little bit because I'm kind of all over the place, but like Marvel had that advantage of, as you have these superheroes, and they had these like well-established characters. So you go in there with these characters with solid foundations. It's almost like Robert Downey Jr. knows how Iron Man's supposed to act and react. You kind of count on the actors a little bit. But these, you kind of went backwards with this DC thing. So you have these histories and everything, different writers, and and you're introducing Aquaman, introducing Flash, who were, yes, the stronger characters, but I don't know.
It was a lot to introduce so many characters in this one movie.
Yes.
Aquaman could have had his own movie. I know Flash had his TV series, but you really introduced three main characters and the villain in a short period of time.
Yes.
But what I think really started kicking this off was when we saw, they didn't even have a name, the cubes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even like the boxes and everything.
They're just boxes.
Yeah, they just called them the boxes. There was no fancy name for them. It wasn't even like an Allspark or a Tesseract. It was just like, let's hit the boxes. They didn't even bother to name them.
What really kicked off the story was, I guess, Wonder Woman's box getting stolen.
Well, they went into that Mysteria. That's the Amazon island, and of course, they bring in Queen Hippolyta, who's Wonder Woman's mother and everything. So I'm like, okay, where are they going with this? And it was a little, I don't know. When Marvel introduces characters from other franchises and they're under different directions and stuff, they're still a little recognizable. It just looked like you're watching like a bland version of Wonder Woman for a little bit. It just didn't feel like the Wonder Woman world. I know it was there, but it felt like, let's just get these guys in there to do that thing. I'm not trying to hate on this movie. I'm just giving my honest initial thoughts about it.
Yeah, Wonder Woman is such a strong character.
Well, let me say this. You know how we had this conversation about, like, because we were talking about, I told you, it was like, sometimes it's a little played where you have that theory of, like, the team, and they kind of fumble because they're trying to find their footing and work together. It almost felt like the movie was trying to find its footing in the beginning. Like, the movie was kind of tripping over itself, and all of a sudden when they started bringing in the Superman, and I don't know if it was put that on Superman, but all of a sudden the movie took its turn and got its momentum. And kudos to DC for not using Superman in the marketing. And that was a risky, bold move. And it made this a prize better. Granted, Henry Cavill was in the IMDb, and they kind of reworked it where you thought it was a dream sequence in one of the trailers, where it was like, at least, and who knows, it's opening weekend, so I'm very curious to see if they're going to reveal Superman's presence in this movie. But that was really like the key of the turning point, was bringing Superman back.
Yeah, I mean, this is where me and you disagree. I do not think that he should have been brought back.
Mm-hmm.
He's just Deus Ex Machina all over this. Whenever there's a problem, just call Superman. He got this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an easy answer.
Well, that's why he's a hard character to write. And, Kevin's a big DC guy. I like Superman's return. I liked the way they handled it. I liked my favorite part of it.
When he went crazy,
like when he
smashed them all.
Yeah, when he first came out, he says we need a contingency plan, and he did not know who everybody was. And the best part, which I did not, it was like it was the exact mirror opposite of the Quicksilver scene, where Flash is just running around and like, okay, Flash has got this, and he just makes that eye contact with Superman,
yeah.
and he
I see you.
Yeah, he's like, you mother. And the best part was, and then Flash's reaction is like, oh, he's looking at me. That was just the best. But it was like Superman's eye was frozen forward and it just slightly turned to the right, and that was the best. That was like the answer to the Quicksilver scene. It's like
worse than we thought.
Now, my problem with my problem with the whole thing is because, like I said, I wasn't a big DC guy, not really into any of the iterations of Superman. I respected his importance of a character, but I really was a big fan of Man of Steel, because what they really tried to do was bring him to Earth and explain, okay, they delved into the part where he's an alien, and they really milked that part, because that's something, ironically, it's something we can more relate to. If you say alien, you can kind of bring that into superpowers and everything, and you can kind of more easily explain it. And it started so strong with this cast of characters and his background, and I felt like, even now, I love seeing him. I'm glad he was in Justice League. But really, I was kind of disappointed that it was just, like you said, he just came in and saved the day. I thought we'd have something a little more deeper than that.
Story with him. Like, he met Lois Lane. That was nice. Like, I'm glad he did that. That's something he would do. But he had more like 4 lines of dialogue.
Yeah, I don't want to say it was corny, but everything just got kind of wrapped up real quick.
That's what I was saying. It seemed like a really fast movie. I thought we were in there for like an hour.
I mean, a lot of the cool things of the stuff I have read, because I have come across some DC, and a lot of the cool dynamic between Superman and Batman is that Batman will put Superman in his place. Like, I remember a very cool, iconic line, because the whole death of Superman is actually a derivative of the comics. Like, he actually died in the comics. It was a big deal, and he came back. But
he died many times.
There was a line I specifically remember either reading it or coming across on the internet, but there was a line where Batman looked at Superman. He goes, "The last time you inspired anybody is when you died." And it was like, oh, but Batman will throw it at Superman's face. And it was none of that dynamic. It was just like, I don't know. It was like Superman came back and everybody's high-fiving, hooray. The conversation that went down with Wonder Woman and Batman, you know what I'm saying, where Batman was taking jabs at her, that kind of conversation should have taken place between Batman and Superman. That's what I'm saying. The dynamic of those characters is the argument.
I didn't really like Ben Affleck. I mean, he didn't seem to bring the Bruce Wayne part of Batman. He was just the muscle. Where was the brilliance of him? Where's the billionaire kind of playboy? I mean, not to be the billionaire playboy, that's Iron Man now. But he just seemed like trying to be muscle, but you're dealing with near gods, so you're not.
It's very hard to fit him into that. And I think it was the nature of the storyline. I mean, you basically brought him. Okay, so Wonder Woman, you had Ares. So you're bringing in this new god, Steppenwolf, who's supposed to be a bigger threat or as big a threat as Ares. So Wonder Woman's going toe to toe. So how does Batman really fit into that?
Yeah, he's just picking off the bugs.
Yeah, I didn't.
I think what they should have done is have him work with Cyborg on the machine thing. Like that would have worked really well.
I think the storyline that they were trying to shoot was like a little too big for that cast of characters. I think they tried to go too. Where do you go after that? The end credit scene with Lex Luthor and Deathstroke and everything. But I don't understand is like when Avengers went with Loki, there's so much to go after that.
Yeah, because
like Loki's old news.
Understanding that he wasn't the big villain. Like,
yeah,
but that guy was.
But now you take
Superman just took him down pretty easily.
But I'm saying you brought in the big god that could go toe to toe with Wonder Woman and Superman. What do you do after that? It's just.
I mean, it's just like that's Superman for you. Just destroys every obstacle. It's like no problem.
Yeah, and it was okay, and I enjoyed the movie when it took its turn. They were coming back. I feel like I knew where it felt short and everything, and I think this thing was just not planned well. And I hate to see great characters wasted. So I'll say Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa, awesome. Okay,
I mean, there wasn't really much development. Like,
no,
what did he want? Like he had a few, like a paragraph and a half, and he was talking. But
yeah,
I just want to be free and not die.
They didn't really explore his character. I mean,
I love Aquaman. Like Jason Momoa, he's an insanely great actor.
Yeah,
and he didn't do much. And I like how he did interact with the fight, where it wasn't forced. Where now there's a river.
Mm-hmm.
No, that'd be weak. He's actually in there fighting in the air. I like that. How they put him in the combat scenes was correct.
Yes. Also, Flash was great. Yep. I liked him being the comedic relief of the thing, because that kind of movie, you need that like little lighter tone, something to break it up a little bit.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for a way to make some extra money? Well, have you considered being a driver for Uber? Now you can make money when you want on your time. And right now, the Bunzerelly Show has teamed up with Uber to bring you a special offer. If you go to our link on the episode description, you can make a guaranteed $200 on your first 30 trips. And Uber will pay the difference if you don't make the $200.
Terms and conditions may apply. Go to uber.bunzerelly.com for more details.
Or look for the link on this episode description. So let's talk about Ben Affleck's Batman. Because do you put it on Ben Affleck's performance, or do you put it on because you're trying to fit Batman into this little puzzle where he doesn't quite fit in or belong? That's the weird thing.
I'd say it's more on the writing. I feel like there's a way where they could have made him more on his intelligence side, less on the combat side.
Yes.
Because he can't fight Superman. He can't fight Aquaman. He can't fight Wonder Woman. But he can outsmart any one of them. That's how he has the advantage.
Maybe Batman should have been playing the role that Alfred played. Like, maybe Batman should have been running the control room a little bit.
Or even helping him with Cyborg. Like, Cyborg just took his straight place.
Cyborg was great.
Yes,
that was the one character, and I tell you, and almost that's where the movie. You know what? That might have been the part of the movie where I woke up. I would say woke up, but like got engaged all of a sudden when Cyborg appeared, because I know nothing, like I said, about DC. This is my first encounter with Cyborg as a reader, cartoons, comics.
I've seen him in a few cartoons and some of the stuff.
Yeah, I've seen cartoon versions of him, but he's always flown on a radar for me. But every time Cyborg appeared, I was like, whoa! I was engaged. Like, what's this guy gonna do next? And even like, I don't know. He was awesome. He carried a lot of it. I don't want to say he carried it, but he was a very engaging character.
Yeah, well, I mean, he drove a lot of points in the plot where like, oh, how do you find this guy? I'm just going to get into every computer on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
He can just do that. Like, that's something that usually Batman would do.
Mm-hmm.
The spaces where Batman usually shines was taken over by Cyborg.
But Cyborg kind of grounded the story, whereas Batman should have, I believe. Now, if you take, but as far as how much of that is on Ben Affleck, because like take the Dark Knight trilogy. So Christian Bale was a solid Batman. Dark Knight trilogy, solid trilogy. Yeah. Granted, the third one probably took a turn because of Heath Ledger's unexpected death, because the story might have taken, he was actually signed on for the third one. So the story might have taken a different turn, but it still wrapped up the trilogy. It kind of closed up the story. So anyway, Christian Bale's Batman, Now, if you switch places, take Ben Affleck and put him in that Christian Bale storyline. I think he did have the Bruce Wayne down. I think he had the Batman down. I really think a lot of it was I just don't think that Batman obviously fits in with those superheroes because it's been done. It's been done in comics. It's been done in cartoons and everything.
He's obviously on par with them.
I just don't think in this movie they fit him in there naturally.
No, they didn't.
I just don't feel like they did. He led the team kind of like out of necessity, but I don't know. But I don't think Christian Bale could have done it better. So I guess a lot of it isn't on him, on the writing.
I'm not going to say blame, but it's more of the writing.
Well, Steppenwolf was just lame. Like, really?
Yeah.
He was so generic and bland. And he was so generic and bland to the point where I was like, when Lex Luthor appeared at that, like, end credit scene, I was like, oh, thank God, Lex Luthor. And I hated Lex Luthor in Batman versus Superman. Like, okay, so Jesse Eisenberg. I like him. I like Lex Luthor. Did not like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. And Batman versus Superman. He was just coming off like he was trying to be the Joker. And it, like, bothered me.
Yeah, he was trying to be crazy, but Lex Luthor isn't crazy. He's a manipulator.
He's calculated.
Yes.
And he kept ringing off these same stupid lines like, hey, Senator, you know what happens when a fly falls into some cantaloupe
like some
soup?
Piss water.
He would just make these dopey but he did it like 3 times in the movie to the same
He did
senator.
Tons of times because he was so smart. People are just smart. They don't need to prove that they are smart.
Yeah.
He wanted to prove that he's smart, and he didn't.
But he just kept making these like he was trying to channel Heath Ledger's like, you know what happens when you get a teddy bear in a headlock too long, and just saying these. And I swear to God, I was watching it, and he said it a 3rd time. He goes, you know what happens when you throw an alligator into a swimming pool? And I'm like, I swear to God, I was like, shut up! I don't want to hear this anymore. And but really, in his end credit scene, when I saw him then. And he was just, just the way he carried himself and the way he talked. It was a very small moment from like, that Lex Luthor I could get down with.
That's the manipulator.
Yeah, I would have rather seen that than Steppenwolf. Because Steppenwolf was so generic, it was ridiculous. Like, I had no idea what he wanted, what he was trying to do.
There's no real character.
It's such a generic, I want world domination. It's such a generic... The 3 cubes? It's like Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
I'm really not trying to complain because I wanted this to do well. I wanted this to be good.
Well, we can't say we wanted to be good, so we think it's good. No, we have the judges.
Yeah.
That actually is.
Yeah, because some things you go in and you grade it. And you know what? Wonder Woman, the people that got criticized on Wonder Woman, there was a bullshit criticism of Wonder Woman where they said, like, Wonder Woman got created on a curve. And that is bull. Because I didn't go into Wonder Woman thinking I was going to love it. Yes.
A lot of people did want her to be good.
But she didn't get a curve because Batman versus Superman was so awesome. Granted, she was the strongest part of Batman versus Superman. Anybody that critiques Batman versus Superman will say Wonder Woman was the best part. And here's another thing I'll say is Wonder Woman was better in Batman versus Superman than she was in Justice League. I just did not... I went into this movie as a Wonder Woman fan. Above all else, before being a Superman fan, before being a Batman fan, because Ben Affleck's Batman with me was like, well, he's there, he's doing it.
Well, I came into this movie as a Jason Moana fan.
Okay.
But it's him then Wonder Woman. He's such a laid back dude, but you can tell when he's really intense, and that transferred over into the movie really well. Like, he had fun when he was destroying all these insect things.
There was an actual story I'd heard, and I'm not sure about it, but okay, so Zack Snyder originally helmed the movie, and he did Superman. I'm sorry, he did Man of Steel, then he did Batman versus Superman, and then he helmed the JLA thing. And somewhere at the point, because Joss Whedon who was behind Avengers, and Joss Whedon was working on he left Avengers because he was burnt out of it, and he was doing a small scale project, which was Batgirl. And he was doing some consulting, or he was somehow involved with this Justice League movie. And Zack Snyder had a family tragedy, and all of a sudden, Joss Whedon had to step in. So you kind of see where it took those light turns for Avengers, and also the one thing about it, and we had talked about the pacing of the movie, and I knew that from Ragnarok. The pacing of the movie is very important. And like you got out of there, and he said it did not feel like 2 hours, which is true. That's the one thing it had going for it. It didn't drag out.
Yeah, it seemed really fast.
My most complaints were it was just weak at some times, but it was never like dragging.
Yeah.
Some stuff was just, I don't know. Like I said, it took a little bit to find its footing, and it just was a little sloppy. But at the end, it was great. I just feel like Superman's return kind of fell a little flat.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no story there. It's just, it's Deus Ex Machina. That's exactly what he is. He is.
Well, I thought he'd be a little torn and there'd be a little struggle with him getting back into the fold, but instead it was, you know what? Okay, I'll tell you exactly what it reminds me of. Now that I think about it, like I said, we just both came out of the theater, so we're gathering our thoughts. I'll tell you exactly what it reminds me of and why it bothers me. The Spider-Man trilogy, which I kind of base everything on, okay? Because, here's...
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Original or...
The first one, Sam Raimi. The first Spider-Man, first one started out strong. Second one, strong. You had the Doc Ock stuff, and you were building to this crescendo with Harry Osborn, where all of a sudden Harry realizes, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And, James Franco is great, whatever. And then the third movie, they force all this crap together, and all of a sudden Harry comes out of nowhere, and he's high-fiving Parker. Like 10 minutes after he gets his face blown off, he's like, "Hey Parker, I'm here to save the day." Da, da, da. It was like it's all good. It was like corny, ridiculous, stupid, and that's how I felt when Superman came back. I felt like
it's more of a plot device than anything.
I felt a lot, but I'm saying a lot of the dynamic of the arguing that happened between Batman and Wonder Woman should have happened between, like I said again, between Batman and Superman. Their dynamic is what makes the comics great and what makes Justice League great. Like I said it before, the fact that Batman could put Superman in his place. And that history, the last movie was the two of them trying to kill each other. And Batman, what's Batman's line? He goes, "I didn't hate you that much." You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Not bad. I'm not hating this movie, but it just fell flat. Yeah. Missed opportunities.
It did seem pretty flat. It wasn't even like a dark. It wasn't dark. It wasn't, light. Like Avengers was pretty light.
The thing that made the first Avengers great was really, and it's even like, it's like the next Wu-Tang album. It's like the novelty of them being together. Sometimes that's the grading on a curve. It's like when you first went into the Avengers, you're just like, oh, there's Iron Man. Oh, there's Captain America.
In big scale movies, this is really the first time it was done on this scale.
But you're going into this thing without characters you're that attached to. Besides Wonder Woman, you got the Batman. It's like, and you're wondering if Superman was coming back. Granted, Avengers, you knew you were going to see Iron Man. You knew you were going to see Captain America and Thor. But here's the thing. With everything that's happened with the Avengers now, when you look back at it, the first Avengers movie was okay.
Yeah.
By today's standards. I watched it 3 or 4 times. So I'm not, it was great, but it was more about the novelty of getting those characters together. But the novelty of getting these characters together was not strong enough to carry the movie, especially because you just introduced us to 2 of these characters. One you brought back from the dead. You killed and brought back from the dead in a real haphazard way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's not the winning formula of Avengers. Because Avengers got better. The best Avengers and the best Marvel movies, and it's important to compare them because they're both trying to do the same formula. But the best Avengers movies is the Avengers learn from their mistakes. The best Avengers movies I'll tell you the best Avengers movies. They're not Avengers movies. It's Captain America, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Thor Ragnarok. It's different directors just all of a sudden getting ballsy and taking risks.
I did not see Ragnarok, and I don't care for Winter Soldier. I don't care about Bucky. I do not care about him.
But would you agree that Winter Soldier took a little jump from the first Captain America? Like it tried to find its own as a movie.
Yeah, it really did because they wanted to flesh out this new character in relation to Captain America, make him have some diversity, so he's not only viewed as he's the Boy Scout.
The last episode I actually did was Thor Ragnarok, and that movie took some risks and just like finally they took Thor and they were like, okay, let's just go in our own direction, just make a straight up good movie. Because what people are learning is, and Justice League's got to learn. Here's the thing Marvel's learning. You can't make these half-assed filler movies because eventually the audience is going to get smart to it and be like, we're not just going to just wander into whatever movie you throw at us. And they did learn that lesson, like you said, with Iron Man 3. But it's like Justice League hasn't given us that gold one yet. Wonder Woman's been the best thing they've given us.
Yeah. I'd say that she has been the most fleshed out, the most beloved character.
Superman I liked, I think because of the cast, Christopher Reeves. He had the iconic look. He looked great. He had the optimism part of Superman, which Henry Cavill's part lacks, because they're trying to take some power, so they always have Henry Cavill being like sad and confused and torn and stuff.
I really do. That makes him. He's more of a human than an alien.
Yes, but he's always like upset about being Superman. Except this movie, all of a sudden he turns around and he's smiling, high fiving. I don't know.
I didn't think he was really that happy, except for at the very end.
That's a part where movies like Transformers does it all the time. You know, the first Transformers was just solid, because if you remember the first Transformers, when they're like first coming to Earth, and there's like goosebump scenes. You know, they're like transforming and they're getting out of pools and stuff, and they come up on you. And you know, in the second and third movie, all of a sudden they're running from explosions and they're just like making dopey jokes. What happens is when you make these jokes at the expense of the sense of danger. When you break up the levity and you use it to break up the movie is good. But when all of a sudden you eliminate the sense of danger, then it's like, well, what are the stakes? What are we watching?
Yeah, it's like they had so many heroes to fight this fight that you could just play around.
A lot of movies kind of start out with a solid foundation, like J.J. Abrams with The Force Awakens. A lot of people say it's a rehash of the old stuff they've done, but what he did was, like, Last Jedi looks awesome. And a lot of that is because people have taken these characters and all of a sudden, like, okay, you established them and we're going to take the ball and run with them. So I do believe this franchise could be saved.
I'm not saying that it's in peril. I'm saying it's been a rocky start.
No, it's been a rocky start. I'm not saying it's in peril, but I don't think the world has been sold on this DC universe like it has the Marvel universe.
Yeah, Marvel is super well established.
Oh, and I totally forgot. I was going to wrap. One cool thing I liked. Did you catch the Green Lantern?
Yeah, I was about to mention that.
I totally forgot about that.
Okay, and there were gods in there.
Yeah.
Gods were fighting this thing.
And they that was like a part of the Green Lantern thing, was like when a lantern dies, the ring seeks out.
Yeah,
it was just
like
it was so
around.
That was the best. That was the best.
Yeah, like it had that little slip note in there, like also Green Lantern was here.
Yeah, that would be a cool twist to bring in later. I would look forward to the Green Lantern again, but there's nothing wrong that can't be saved. Now, granted, I think
they need a good villain. Like they need
a good villain. Lex looks like he's back in the game, and like I said, if Jesse Eisenberg can maintain the Lex we saw at that end credit scene, I'm down with that Lex.
Yeah, because
I don't want to see Joker, Riddler, Lex. I just want to see straight calculated Lex.
We're done with crazy villains. We want to see some calculated ones.
Yeah, calculated ones.
They're scary.
Yeah,
like because they have a good chance to win because they planned.
Calculated.
That's what makes the Joker scary. That's what made Loki scary. That's what made Ultron scary. That's what made any villain, all villains. The villain from Ares, from Wonder Woman.
Ares had like some motivation. At least Ares told you his story, and you could buy into it. You're like, okay, I see where he's coming from.
He is the god of war. He understands war should always exist.
Yeah, but he had something he believed in. Like this Steppenwolf, I seriously did not give two craps about where he was coming from. Like, what are you trying to do? It's like
that's why I liked Ultron, because he was this robot.
Yeah.
But he had this like divine view of nature and how it should all exist.
I thought Ultron was good, and that movie kind of got slept on again.
I mean, the villain Ultron.
Yeah, I'm saying the movie got slept on a little bit, and it did. The movie wasn't great, but I thought Ultron as a villain was great because once again, you have to be able to buy into the villain story to like buy in everything. If he's just being bad for the sake of being bad, who does that?
What do you think that should or shouldn't have happened that would have made this movie better?
For all the work they did to keep Superman's return a secret, I felt like his whole thing was just watered down. Everything about Superman's presence in this movie was watered down. His return, Lois, The Lois stuff was good. Her dynamic was good, but and it's not to a fault of anything, but just the plot and the pacing of it. The payoff with Superman was not worth the work they had done. I thought they were setting us up for a bigger payoff with Superman, and it fell flat in my eyes. And I was really hoping for that Superman comeback because I've been rooting for the Superman. Like, I want that Superman to do well above all else. So that was my disappointment. My disappointment was Superman fell flat to me.
Well, I think that they should have done 3 pretty easy things that, I guess, summarize this episode is have a better, more complex villain. I don't think they should have had Superman in this movie. Just don't have him. And they should have used Batman better.
I think we could both agree that nothing's unsavable.
No, nothing's.
You can keep this exact same cast, and really, I'm still looking forward to that Wonder Woman 2. They got Patty Jenkins signed up and everything.
Oh, they've already it's a deal now.
Oh yeah, she signed on for it, so that's happening. I'm hoping to see her. I don't want to see Wonder Woman in that Justice League era. I want to see her back in time still, even if you throw her like in World War One.
Another god.
Yeah, but I'm saying she doesn't need to have that Justice League baggage on her. I want to see her in like World War One, World War II, or Vietnam or something. Yeah, I don't want to see her Aquaman. Like I said, you hand him to another director and another writer. He could be great. Flash could be great. Batman. Now Batman's weird because
he's so well established, but was done kind of differently.
Well, the other thing is like I keep seeing conflicting reports of Ben Affleck. Like, is he done? Is he still in? Is he done? And really, I don't care if they show me another Batman. I'm not saying I don't care, but I'm not so invested in him.
Yeah, like
I feel like if they drew the best thing would be throw Christian Bale back in a suit, but they can throw anybody in that Batman costume. What I'm saying is this: I don't hate Ben Affleck's Batman. I don't love him. I'm just not attached to him at all. Yeah. They could just swap somebody else, keep the whole cast, and I'll be fine with that. That's my honest feelings. But all in all, hopefully DC gets their act together. Nothing bad, but hopefully moving forward. I mean, there's so much potential. Not a bad start for them, but just, it could go either way with them. But I don't want them to abandon ship either. So here's hoping the best, DC, because I definitely want, do this Henry Cavill Superman right. Give us the Wonder Woman right and everything. But, Paul, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It's been great.
Oh, and last note, the next show that you guys will hear will be our 1-year anniversary of the Bunzerelly show, and it will be The Last Jedi. So I'm not exactly sure what we got planned for that, but make sure you tune in, and thanks for being a supporter of the show.